Hey there, Alex Kidman here from Alex Reviews Tech, and this is a mouse. And as you might be able to tell from the flashing logo at the bottom there, it's a Corsair mouse. But this is not the interesting side of this particular mouse, the Scimitar Elite Wireless. No, this side is, because this is a mouse with all the buttons. And then some. 16 in total, which presumably means it's the ideal mouse for our new AI-generated 16-fingered overlords. As a very slight aside, I did try and get an AI to generate me an image. I don't like doing AI-generated images, but it seemed like too good an opportunity to pass up, of a 16-fingered person. And, well, this was what it came up with. Yeah. Count the fingers. Keep trying, AI. Keep trying. Anyway, back to the Scimitar Elite Wireless. This is a $139.95 Australian mouse. So on the premium side, but certainly not the most you can pay for a mouse. And of course, the big point here is this left side panel of buttons, mainly for your MMO and MOBA style players, but theoretically a productivity tool for anyone. And look, to cut to the chase here, as a basic regular mouse, if I just want to slide it around, if I want to attack my Godzillas with it here, yeah, it'll do that. It's fine. Up to 26,000 DPI, so it can go quite quickly if I wanted to attack my Godzillas, or it can go quite slowly if that's what I want. But nobody is going to buy it just for that. Everything is fine. The optical switches on top here work just fine. The scroll wheel here works just fine. It is not of the type, by the way, that will click side to side. It will click in as a button, but not side to side, if that matters to you. But what probably does matter to you here is this little side panel. Now, one of the more interesting design pieces with this is that this is adjustable. I'll show you how that actually works. There's a little screw socket down here, and you get this tiny, cute little screwdriver. And then if I turn that in the correct direction, always helps, then what it will do, it doesn't actually bring the screw entirely out, but it loosens this, because now I can slide that back and forward. And the idea here is that, if you've got particularly long thumbs, you might have it right forward. If you've got really short thumbs, you might have it fully back. You can place it where you like along a very limited frame of fundamentally left to right. There's a little bit of up and down to it as well. The buttons themselves have kind of concave shape too, which is kind of interesting. Now, the idea, of course, is that you would then screw it back into shape. I've tended to have it about midpoint. Although I suppose if you were going to be, I've completely screwed up doing this on camera, because of course doing this stuff on camera is a little bit trickier. There we go. I suppose, to get back onto my point, if you were going to be particularly evil, you could always find your competitor's version of this, loosen that up, and then all through the match, it's going to be sliding around like crazy. But I probably shouldn't be encouraging people to do evil things now, should I? In terms of connectivity, the Scimitar Elite Wireless connects over Bluetooth with a relatively low polling rate. Ideally, it will connect with this small USB receiver over 2.4 gigahertz. It will also connect as a cabled mouse, and this is also how you recharge, through this front-facing, probably won't come up on camera terribly well, USB-C port. You do get a cable, which is C to A, in the box. It's currently plugged into my computer. I think you've seen what a cable looks like before. There's not too much that's exciting about that. Now, as I said at the outset, you could just plug this into your computer, preferably by the 2.4 gigahertz receiver, and use it, and it will work as a mouse. But you're going to want to configure these buttons if you're spending all this money on this controller, and for that, you will need Corsair's iCue software. Now, you can do all your kind of regular stuff in terms of DPI settings or setting the colors you want the RGB lighting to be, if RGB lighting is what truly excites you. And of course, you can then set what each of these individual buttons is going to do within, largely, I'm going to suspect, your game of choice. But the other pitch that Corsair has here is if you're an Elgato Stream Deck user, you can use a virtual Stream Deck with these to control all of your online streaming functions, or at least 12 of them. Very, very slight aside here, and this might just be me, but I'm really interested in people's feedback. It bugs me every time I look at this thing that the numbering goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, up that way. It feels weirdly illogical to me for reasons that I find hard to put into words. I really feel like it should just go 1, 2, 3, 4, across and across and across. No, just me? Is there a game specific layout that I'm missing here that I don't know about, which means that this kind of layout is really, really preferable? If so, please tell me in the comments below. Perfectly happy to be corrected. And as I said, total aside, really, but it's just one of those design layout things that kind of bugs me. Now, setting up the actual button assignments within iCue It's fine, it works, and of course you can use it for other features. I mean, you could arguably turn this into not just a streaming but general productivity mouse. If you had a piece of text you always had to throw into an email, you could set the button 12 to be that piece of text and just like spam it endlessly if you wanted. That all functions. The same observation that I had about the Corsair keyboard that I reviewed recently, I've got about this, which is that iCue is quite functional software. It's quite powerful. You can do a lot of things with it. But also, when it crashes, it's an absolute pig, especially the Mac version. The PC version is a little better in my testing, although it can be a bit of a memory hog, can be a little bit slow. Now, lots of these all-in-one peripheral software packages are like that. I wish it wasn't so, but it can be a little bit difficult. I suppose the point is you would probably configure it for most gamers, for most users, you'd probably configure it the once for all of your button layouts and then not have to mess with it again. So maybe that's not so much of a big problem. In terms of battery life, Corsair says that on 2.4 gigahertz with the RGB lighting off, you'll get 150 hours. If you're happy enough with Bluetooth, where the polling rate is quite a bit lower, it's probably more kind of web browsing suitable than fast action game suitable, that bounces up to 500 hours. Again, though, that's with all the RGB lighting off. I'm not big on RGB lighting. I've kind of got it going for this video to show you that it functions, but I would probably have it off myself. Now, in terms of my own testing, that seems to track okay. I've not really had this thing long enough to say, yes, it definitively will do 150 hours, but 150 hours is a lot of gaming. You're going to be well and truly aware that this thing is running low long before it actually runs out of power. My one caveat on the battery life side is that this thing is using a completely sealed battery. This is not a replaceable or removable battery. And what that means is that over time, it's the nature of battery chemistry, that battery is going to get worse. Now, I suspect a lot of people probably will wear out the buttons, will wear out everything else on this particular device long before the battery actually goes. But if you're a careful or moderate user, you could find yourself in a position where the rest of the mouse is okay, but the battery isn't, at which point you'd have to use it as a cabled mouse only or get really handy with a soldering iron, presuming that can be done. I have not busted this thing open in order to find out, just to be clear. So should you buy the Corsair Scimitar Elite Wireless? Well, look, this is a terribly, terribly specialized little mouse. It really is there for the MMO players. It really is there for the people using Stream Decks and things like that, where having these kinds of buttons at really, well, I'm going to say relatively easy reach. I think you've kind of got to do a little bit of almost kind of Braille-like stuff in terms of the muscle memory. I still find after a week or two's testing that I'm still looking down to make sure that I'm tapping the right button. But I guess over time you would get much more used to the curvature and where you'd assign certain buttons within your game. You kind of probably know if you need that, because for most of us, no, you don't need this. There's a very, very obvious problem I haven't already addressed as well, which is this is right-handed only. There is, to the best of my knowledge, no left-handed model. And while I suppose you could flip it around if you were left-handed and kind of use it that way, then your hand's going to be resting on these mousing buttons. So unless you're disabled, it gets too complicated. It's just not really built to be suitable for left-handed use. This is a very specific niche of gaming mice, and I think this does an okay job for what it is, but this certainly isn't a mouse for everyone. And that's my quick take on the Scimitar Elite Wireless. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe.